Hi, Action Readers! You've just read our latest nonfiction feature, The Man Who Has Saved Millions. It's the story of an American inventor named Garrett Morgan. Morgan's inventions saved countless lives, but he would have to wait many years to get the credit and recognition that he deserved. And he's not alone.
Too often, history books have overlooked men and women from the past who have made huge contributions to our world, all because of racism or sexism. But that's starting to change. Here are 5 other forgotten heroes whose stories will fascinate and inspire you. In the early 1900s, there were parts of the world that no human had explored. The North Pole was one of them. But then, a group of men braved bitter cold and violent blizzards to become the first people to set foot on the top of the world. An explorer named Matthew Henson was one of them. But racism prevented Henson from being recognized for this achievement at the time. Instead, the white man he was with got all the credit. It wasn't until many years later that Henson's accomplishments rose out of the shadows. In 1988, Henson's body was moved to Arlington National Cemetery, the burial ground of many of America's heroes. In 1811, 12-year-old Mary Anning discovered the bones of a giant monster on the beach near her house in England. Scientists had never seen anything like it before. That's because it was an ichthyosaur, a sea creature that had lived 200 million years earlier, during the time of the dinosaurs. But back then, no one knew about dinosaurs. Few people even realized that animals can become extinct or die out completely. Anning's discovery helped change that. A new type of science was born: paleontology, the study of ancient plant and animal remains. But because Anning was a woman, she was left out of scientific groups. Others took credit for her work. Only recently has she finally been honored as the mother of paleontology. Like tens of thousands of other Native American kids in the 1800s and 1900s, Chester Nez was sent to a boarding school run by the U.S. government. He was forbidden from speaking his language, Navajo. But when he grew up, he would use Navajo to help the U.S. and its allies win World War II. Nez and 28 other Navajo men turned their language into a code that the U.S. Army used to send secret messages. They became known as the Navajo Code Talkers. But after the war, Nez and the other Code Talkers had to keep their mission a secret. And they returned home to a country that did not treat them like full citizens. In many states, Native people could not vote. More than 20 years later, the U.S. military finally revealed the Code Talkers' secret. Since then, more and more people have learned about their brilliance and bravery. In April 1970, the Apollo 13 spaceship was sailing toward the moon when disaster struck. An explosion destroyed part of the ship. 3 astronauts were stranded more than 200,000 miles from home. Back on Earth, a math genius named Katherine Johnson came to their rescue. As an African-American woman, Johnson had fought back against prejudice to become a top mathematician at NASA. Now, she carefully calculated a path for the broken spaceship to return to Earth. Soon, Apollo 13 was safely home. The astronauts became celebrities, winning awards for their bravery. but few people heard about Johnson until recently. In 2016, people around the world learned her story from the hit book and movie Hidden Figures. And she has received some of our country's highest honors. When Sylvia Mendez was growing up in the 1940s, Mexican-American kids in California weren't allowed to go to school with white kids. They were forced to go to separate, rundown schools. Mendez and her family went to court to fight against this unfairness. And they won. Their victory ended segregation in California schools. And it led to a bigger court case that ended school segregation across America. Today, more people remember that case than Sylvia Mendez's. But Mendez travels around the country telling her family's story, making sure that their history-making win is not forgotten. Open your issue of Action to learn more about Garrett Morgan and his amazing inventions, and then we encourage you to do some research on your own. Who are some other heroes who have been forgotten by history?